What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, we flushed that Oklahoma State game. Hopefully, the team's going to take some lessons that they learned and apply it not only to UAB, but Auburn and Texas A&M and Tennessee and all the games coming up on the schedule, and hopefully not find a whole lot of new problems. We're going to be joined by Danny West. He's going to help us break down that game, talk a little bit about the recruiting weekend that's coming up. Connor Goodson is going to help us as well with 5 burning questions and the keys to victory, and we'll take some questions if we got some time also. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. You guys know all the ways to watch and listen. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on X, we're on Instagram. So throw us a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, hit the alert so you're notified anytime we're uploading new videos, and throw us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you listen to podcasts. We are there. Excuse me. Pardon me. All right. So Arkansas opening up on Bet Saracen as 24.5-point favorites. I say opening up. I think it's just stayed at that line. Arkansas is minus 1,600 on the money line, and the Blazers are plus 900. You stop short of saying Blazers have no chance to win, because obviously Notre Dame lost to NIU and nobody thought that they had a chance to lose that game. And they were even bigger favorites in that one. But Arkansas is going to win this game. They owe it to the home fans. I've talked about that a little bit. Like, you think back about some of the games that Arkansas has played in front of this home crowd lately. I mean, you got to go all the way back to 2022 against Ole Miss before you saw a really good home game in Fayetteville. And there were some that year. You had South Carolina, you had Cincinnati, you had some entertaining games. But you go back last year, and your home games are what? BYU, just watch them completely fold and throw away a win. And then you got to wait. And Kent State was the second game of the season, first game in Fayetteville. That was very uninspiring. It's 28-6. The game flew by. It was one of the shorter games that you see, and very uninspired, 28-6 win. And then you lost to BYU. And then what do we fast forward all the way to Mississippi State, because we had that huge gap with all those away games, which was also a disservice to the home fans. Not only did you play poorly at home, but you had this huge gap when there's excitement actually for football. And that's not Arkansas's fault. It's SEC, and I guess some of it, they scheduled that Texas A&M game, which this is the last year in Arkansas as the away team. But then you had that huge gap, and then they do some inspiring things on the road. They get your hopes up a little bit. Hunter Yurachek puts that tweet out after the Alabama game where they lose by 3 in Tuscaloosa that this team deserves a great home crowd. I like Hunter, but the home crowd deserved a great showing. And what they got was a 7-3 loss to Mississippi State. One of the worst offensive performances that I have ever witnessed, considering Arkansas's team and the caliber of opponent, a very bad Mississippi State team. And the only reason Arkansas scored 3 is because I believe it was Jalen Braxton had that interception early in the game. Otherwise, it was just pathetic offensive showing. Dan Enos justifiably had to be fired after that game. And then, you bring in Auburn, and a bad Auburn team last year, and they just blow your doors off in front of the home crowd, 48 to, 10-7, something like that. And then Missouri does the exact same thing. You had South Alabama? Is that who they played in the middle of that? And they won like 44-20 or something, which that is, I don't even count that late in the season against a team like that. That's not even a great showing. And then, just getting waxed by Missouri again, at home. So those are your home games last year. And now you've had to wait till week 3 to get a home game. And it's UAB, so it's not an exciting opponent. But what you deserve is not to have this team just kind of go out and go through the motions and wrap it up. Obviously, you want to stay healthy and make sure you rest your starters and those kinds of things. But the fans deserve to watch an offensive explosion and a strong defensive play, I think, in this game. Even though you want to get out injury-free, you don't want to show too much, all those things. They shouldn't have to do that against UAB. This is not a very good team. Okay. So then you've got you're going to Auburn next week, which I'm not going to Auburn because of how they treat the press there. They have a terrible press box. They moved it. So sworn off Auburn games. Plus, the travel, you got to fly to Atlanta and then you got to drive 2 hours to Auburn. It's just no good way to get there. And then you get there and you got the worst seat in the house. That's how the press is treated. So I've sworn off Auburn games, unless I might go one year, maybe just go sit in the stands or something. I haven't done that in a long time. Maybe I'll do that. And then Texas A&M and Arlington, I'm booked for that, which I said I never would do again because I'm so tired of going to that venue and watching that game. But not that I'm tired of watching Razorback football. It's just the venue, and the press box is so high up. Maybe I'll go sit in the stands this time for that one. I wonder if I could do that. That might be an idea. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, maybe I'll sneak around and find a seat. If you got an extra seat, let me know, and maybe I'll come sit by you if they're good. So, but yeah, you're just so high up in that press box. You're looking at the TV the whole time. They're ants, a stadium for ants on the field. So anyway, you got that one. And then what's next? Then you return home for Tennessee after Tennessee gets a bye week. And that game is going to be difficult. Tennessee looks good. So anyway, not to look too far ahead. We can do that because we're fans, media, and the team cannot. The team's got to focus on UAB, make sure they win that one, but get out of it healthy and healthier. Arkansas is a little bit beat up. I do think they're probably going to rest Hudson Clark, who has, is a backup safety, but is playing a very notable role. I mean, he's going to be one of the top 3 guys in that rotation there. And then you've got he did play some special teams, but he's got a back injury. We know Marquise Robinson had a stinger. I believe that Sam said it was his shoulder, and it went numb and it never came back. So he missed the Oklahoma State game, but he will be back. I think he'll probably start in this one because I think they might just rest Jalen Braxton for this. Braxton has had tendonitis that he's been dealing with throughout fall camp that he practiced through and has played through so far. And he also had he has a bone bruise now also that he's dealing with. So I think good idea to maybe rest up your best defensive back and get him to that Auburn game. So I think you'll see a lot of Keon Stewart, Marquise Robinson, Jaheim Singletary in this one. So yeah, just a little beaten up in the secondary, and they're beaten up in some other spots too. But that's the main area that Sam was talking about on his Wednesday press conference. So if you're tired of getting beaten up by your internet service, then you should check out our friends at Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go, 479-684-4900. I just did a test a minute ago. I was pulling 935 megabits per second on my computer, and that's blazing fast, up and down. Upload speed was a little faster. So they offer several different tiers of internet, multi-gig, which is what I use, gigabit, which is 1,000 megabits per second, which is plenty fast for just about anybody. The multi-gig, I use a lot. This is also my professional setting, so I use a lot of stuff, and I never have any lag or issues or it never gets dropped or anything like that. I'm playing college football. It's never on my end that I get dropped. Sometimes my opponents that don't have Ozarks Go. So go check them out, ozarksgo.net/hog. If you use the promo code BIDDY1, then you can get a month free also. It's a local company, but Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, expanding, out in Rogers, ever expanding. So a good service that I used well before they ever became a sponsor of this show because I believe in them. So I'm proud to have them as a sponsor because I like talking about companies that I believe in. ozarksgo.net/HAWG. Make sure to use that link so they know you came from here. Look a little bit about Arkansas. Arkansas scoring offense right now is 4th in the SEC at 50.5 points per game. It's a lot of points. A lot of teams putting up a lot of points. Their total offense right now is 2nd in the SEC and in the country. 667.5 yards per game. Ole Miss is putting up 713.5 yards per game. They haven't played anybody, but Arkansas obviously has. Oklahoma State, not a great defense, but a Power 5 defense, a Power 4 defense at least. So that's where Arkansas stands there. Taylor Green is 42 of 68 passing, 61.8%, 645 yards, 2nd in the SEC, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Obviously on that hit pass, a 153.06 efficiency rating. Jaquindon Jackson, hold on, I was on receiving. Rushing. Jaquindon Jackson is also 2nd in the SEC next to Dylan Sampson. He has 32 carries for 250 yards, 7.8 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns, which ties for the lead. 5 touchdowns. So some guys putting up some good numbers on Arkansas's offense defensively. Won't spend too much time, but Arkansas is tied for 10th in the SEC, again, out of 16 schools at 257 yards per game. Pass defense, 14th, 224 yards per game. A lot of these teams hasn't played anybody. A lot of these teams also play. I mean, there are several teams that are playing 4 straight home games in this conference. One team playing 5. That's a lot of home games considering Arkansas. By the time some of these teams will have played 4 straight home games, Arkansas will have played 1 in Fayetteville. They played 1 in Little Rock, obviously, but so 2 technically. But it's pretty wild. Pretty wild how the schedule shapes up. Looking at this matchup real quick, UAB is, they're doing pretty well on defense, actually. We'll talk to Danny West a little bit more about the UAB offense, but UAB defense, 17.5 points per game, which is tied for 62nd. This is out of 134 schools. Total defense, 236.5, tied for 26. They've been really good against the pass, 73.5 yards per game, which is 3rd. But I don't always go by that as much as I look at the rushing numbers. And if the rushing numbers are good, then I'll put some credence in the passing numbers also. But the rushing numbers, they're 98th, giving 163 yards a game. So that doesn't put as much credence on the passing game because, if you can just run the ball on somebody, then just run it. Then just run it on them, So if the rushing defense is good and the passing defense is good, then I'll put a little more credence on the passing defense. But that can get skewed sometimes. Their pass efficiency is a more important rating at 76.62, which is 8th nationally. So maybe that stands out a little bit. Maybe that's intriguing. 76.62. Now, they hadn't played anybody. They played ULM, who they got lost to, and Alcorn State, who's on the FCS level. So got to take that into account. As I mentioned, Arkansas's offense is 2nd nationally. Passing offense, 2nd nationally. 3rd down percentage, 1st nationally, 71.4%. Red zone offense hasn't been very good, 76.9%. That's been kind of a trend under Pittman. A lot of times they make the wrong decision. I would love for somebody, not me, because it's going to take so much time, to go back over all the games that Sam Pittman's coached, and I want to know when there was a decision to be made on 4th down and the decision was to go for it or kick a field goal or punt, how many times did it turn out to be the wrong decision? Because I think that plays a big role in some of these, very narrow losses. It's almost like, you're finding ways to lose games, and we'll see how it shakes out moving forward. Oklahoma State's a good opponent. They do that to a lot of people, apparently, but obviously there's the statistic by Stu Hogg on Twitter that has, since 2020, 328 teams have produced at least, I think it's 500 yards of offense. It might be 550 yards of offense. I think it's 550 yards of offense, and outgained their opponent by 200 yards. Those teams have won 327 times, and the only loss is Arkansas since Sam Pittman became coach. That's a crazy statistic. It really is. And I know you can mix up the numbers any way you want, but I mean, that's wild. So 328 times. And the average score is like 53-15. I mean, it's kind of like you're in a canoe and you see the rock. And if you just let the current take you, it's going to take you around the rock, but you see a need to paddle for when you don't have to, and you just inevitably paddle right into the rock. Some familiar faces over on that side of the ball. Danny's talked about Everett Russaw, who was committed to Arkansas previously back in January 2022. He's been leading them at linebacker, 6'2", 235. Their leading linebacker, leading tackler with 12 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. As Sam Pittman says, UAB defense is a quarters coverage team, a lot of single blitzes, 4-down line. They have good linebackers. Michael Moore will be one, him and Russaw. They've got a really good corner in Colby Dempsey. They have a couple of transfer defensive tackles. I believe those are both FCS or FBS, or not FBS, but Power 5 defensive tackle transfers. We have really good size defensively, not complicated defensively. Like I said, a lot of single blitzes, whether it be a corner, whether it be from the safety. They play extremely hard and well coached. Obviously, we know Trent Dilfer. I asked the players on Tuesday, all 4 of them, you know who Trent Dilfer is? Nothing. I mean, these guys were like 4 to 7 years old, when Trent Dilfer was in his last year with San Francisco. But Super Bowl winning quarterback, a guy that was in Was he in broadcast booth or was he at the desk mostly? I mean, I remember him in media, obviously for a number of years, but Alex Mortensen also is on that sideline, offensive coordinator. He was 8 years at Alabama he wasn't an on-field coach, but he was doing stuff. And Alex is one of the rare examples of a guy that came to Arkansas, left Arkansas, and returned. I believe he went to Samford and then returned to Arkansas. Vito Calvaruso did that, although I don't believe Vito's on the team anymore because he left Arkansas, went to Wisconsin, and came back. So anyway, a couple notable names. I don't think I've ever sneezed on this show, but I've felt like I've had to sneeze for about 2 minutes now. So it's coming. I may stare in this light. We're going to go to Danny West. It's right there. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's right there. Okay, we'll go to Danny West. Those of you who don't follow Danny, at Danny West 24/7. Over 50,000 people follow Danny on X. So if you're not one of them, like, you got to ask yourself, I mean, this is not a big state, and there's 50,000 people following this dude. Why am I not one of them? So go follow Danny West on X. And you need a VIP subscription to read all of Danny's, or most all of Danny's content, which is largely focused on recruiting. So go sign up right now. HawgSports is 30% off. Danny, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good. How's it going your way?
It's going good. I mean, we're just getting ready for this game, and it's obviously an opponent that Arkansas should beat pretty handily. I'll tell you what stands out to me, Danny. I was asking the players on Tuesday for some information on UAB, like personnel-wise or scheme and stuff, and they didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I mean,
doesn't feel great.
It's one of those answers where it's just like, well, we're worried about what we do. It's like, and then Metcalf said something about they can't get to the perimeter on us, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but, I saw that too.
Nothing too much on personnel or scheme from those guys.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of people sat there wondering about that 24 and a half, reading some of those quotes, but that's all right too, man. Trey, I think last week, man, you look at that loss down at ULM, that was not expected. You know what? I mean, UAB was, I want to say 11 and a half point favorite going into that game. Supposed to be much improved, coming into year two.
Yep.
And go down there and lose. I mean, ugly, 32-6. Lost to their former interim coach. Not sure people realize that. This guy was just coaching over there at UAB 2 years ago.
Is that right?
And and beat the tar out of him. Bryant Vincent is his name, coaching at ULM. And people forget, Bill Clark, he had to step away from UAB. They were rolling, man. I think he won 11 1 year, won 9 games a couple of years there. He popped up on some coaching boards here and there. So it's a good program. I was just kind of surprised that UAB didn't fare better than that last week.
What happened to Bill Clark?
A little better.
Yeah, what happened to Bill Clark? Because he had won. I feel like he won.
Man, he had some back issues, I think, is what made him step away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm looking at him. He went, in 2017 through 2021, he went 8-5, 11-3, 9-5, 6-3, and 9-4. And this is at a football program that was talking about giving it up not long ago. Yep. What was that, like 2014 or something? It wasn't that long ago.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, impressive. But anyway, people tend to forget that. It wasn't that long ago. This game would have looked a lot different on the schedule. But anyway, just in short, I think I was surprised that they didn't look better. I expected them to. They've got 23 FBS, Power 5 transfers on their roster. I just expected them to be a little bit further along. Maybe ULM is, maybe they're catching fire under a first-year head coach. Who knows? But I feel pretty good about Arkansas's chances to answer your question.
You've looked at this team pretty in depth on their offense, their offensive side of the ball. What do you see from them, Danny?
Yeah, veteran quarterback, obviously, former 4-star, started out at Baylor. Not much of a runner, but, people keep saying that. And you go back 2-3 years ago, it seemed like he was running quite a bit more and had, some success there. He had like a 45-yarder he reeled off in one game, 26-yarder in another game. So, he can do that. I don't want to make it sound like he's just a statue. But, just seems like a guy at this point. He's trying to stay in the pocket.
I mean, I'm looking at him, Jacob Zeno, his recruiting profile right now, and he was a 24/7 Sports composite. He was a 3-star on 24/7 Sports, but he was a composite 4-star. So all the rankings combined, he was a 4-star. And also, I mean, like he had offers. He listed an offer from Joe Craddock in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And like this isn't like he has an NC State offer. It's not just like a throwaway offer. He took an official visit there. So you don't usually take official visits if it's just a nothing offer. But yeah, he lists an offer from Joe Craddock in Arkansas in the class of 2019. Now they took KJ Jefferson that year, so they
pretty early too.
Pretty early. So
but anyway, protecting this guy offensive line wise. They're kind of shifting it a little bit this week. I want to say they're going back to the initial starter at left guard there. So a little bit of a shakeup last week, and it sounds like they need it because, I mean, you look at it, man, 5 sacks at ULM, had 4 more quarterback hurries. So, just on the surface, man, it seems like a game that if you're an Arkansas team that's trying to get back on the right track in terms of getting after the quarterback, haven't really seen that yet. Only, a couple of sacks so far through 2 games. Landon hadn't got one yet. Seems like just what the doctor ordered. So maybe it seems like on paper anyway, just, I didn't kill myself trying to figure this team out, but on the surface, it seems like potential, maybe you can get back on track with some sacks this week.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's kind of obvious too, Danny, don't you, just on the game plan last week against against Oklahoma State was make sure you do everything you can to stop Ollie Gordon. Don't focus on a bunch of blitzes. And I mean, they got there a few times, but for the most part, the game plan stop Ollie Gordon, and they absolutely accomplished that. And then with Landon, he's just going to see a lot of double teams and
a whole bunch
get
of them.
chipped a lot and those kinds of things. So that's just going to be part of it this season.
That's right. But at some point, that means somebody else got to step up. And I think, Junkaj, it seemed like he flashed just a couple of times last week where you're like, okay, that's the guy they've been talking about. But man, I'm with everybody else. I want to see them apply some pressure. That's the group that we've talked so much about. It's got to lead them defensively. It's time to see it against an opponent like this, coming off of a 5-sack, showing last week at ULM. No disrespect to them, but you need to go out there and get a handful of sacks too this week, I think.
You remember Randy Kelly, Danny?
Oh, yeah.
So I can remember several years ago now, when Randy Kelly was an underrated safety at Arkansas. But Arkansas did not have a turnover. They had not forced a turnover like 3 games or something to start the season. And the talk was like, well, when they come, they'll come in bunches and stuff. And I can't remember who they were playing, but this was back when you had open locker rooms. Like we could go into the locker room after the game, interview anybody we wanted and stuff like that. And I went over and sat down and talked to Randy Kelly. And I think what happened was there was a handoff messed up or something, or exchange or something, and the ball was laying on the ground. And I asked Randy what happened, and he said, Randy was, he had the gold teeth. He had a look about it, and he said, I saw it laying on the ground. I picked it up and spun around, and shoot, everybody already knew what time it was. And he took it to the house. He scooped and scored, took it to the house. Yeah.
Buddy, I think that's the last time they beat Bama, 2006.
Was that Bama? Game. Is that right?
Yep. Pretty sure it's the 4th game of the year. It adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah. Well, that was wild.
He scored that game. Yeah.
Everybody already knew what time it was.
He's a good dude. I think he's still around on Hog Twitter, and I see him pop up every now and then. Yeah.
I always liked
number 6.
Yeah, I always liked interviewing Randy Kelly.
Yeah.
Visit list, Danny.
Who's
coming in? It's a pretty long list. Actually, a little bit surprised for this game. Heck, you don't. It's not like you got a wealth of home games coming up, so get them in while you can.
That's right. Yeah, pretty good list this week. Obviously, it starts with the committed guys. You would expect to see a bunch of them on campus. First home game, and there will be Grayson Wilson, Quentin Murphy. I think we talked about several of those on Monday, but Adam Austin, Colton Yarborough, Tay Lockett coming all the way from California this week. So, that's the one group, but everybody wants to know about the undecided guys. Obviously, some 2025 names of interest still out there. We talked about Tay Lockett right there. His good buddy Drayden Garner, wide receiver out of San Diego University City High School. A little bit of an interesting story here. Maybe 6-8 months ago, had you asked me Arkansas's chances on Garner, I probably would have said Arkansas is the favorite to land him. And obviously they changed wide receivers coaches. Coach Fouch comes in, and for the last several months now, it seems like things have really cooled down between Arkansas and Garner, to the point to where I've kind of removed him from some of my lists, if that tells you anything. So to see him pop back up, making the trip with Tay again, I mean, I think it's it's interesting, something to keep an eye on. It would make sense to me. I think you brought up a good point the other day in the group thread, but Arkansas is a little bit over on the scholarship limit at receiver right now. They're a little bit heavy there. So can you afford to take another one in this class? We're calling Quentin Murphy a receiver. Kamari Williams already got, A.J. Jordan, Antonio Jordan. And can you afford to take a fourth? We'll see. So anyway, Drayden Garner being on the list, that's notable. And then some 2026 guys to wrap it up there, Trey. Anthony Kennedy, obviously a 4-star defensive lineman that we've talked a lot about out of Maumelle. Always good to get those guys on campus. And Kendrick Williams right there at Fayetteville, recently offered over the summer by Arkansas. So always good to get the in-state guys. It's tough for people to get excited about the next year's class, but I tell people now it's moved up so much. These guys right here are the ones we're going to be talking about here in another 4 or 5 months. They're going to be starting to make decisions. So good to get them on campus. There's several other names. Bear McWhorter being back on campus this weekend, used to be committed to Arkansas. So another 2026 name there. But people can check out the list. I'll be adding some more, I'm sure, between now and kickoff.
So, yes, they're a little over at wide receiver, and you mentioned 3 guys they already have committed. The transfer portal has a way of taking care of things too.
That's right.
And exits
in a hurry.
What do you lose?
Yeah.
You got Andrew Armstrong, Tesla, Tyrone Broden. Is that it? Is that everybody?
What's Jaden?
Jaden Wilson?
Oh, yeah, he's out.
He's out of here. Yeah, but he would be back. He was a junior. Yeah.
Boy, can't keep up with them. They come and go, don't they? I mean, right in the season, they'll come and go.
Yeah. All right, brother. Appreciate
I'll get out of Connor's way. Have a good one, man. We'll see you.
Okay. All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow Danny at Danny West 24/7 on X. Again, you're not following this dude. Like, he's got 50,000 Twitter followers for a reason. All right, let's hop over to Connor Goodson. Connor, we always ask Connor to come up with the burning questions each week. He takes a look. I kind of reviewed a little bit of some of the stuff that he broke down with the UAB defense. But we're going to ask him about these questions that he's identified about UAB. I don't know, maybe he's got some basketball information. Oh, by the way, while we're waiting on Connor to hop on, I wanted to mention this, but they got, we talked about on-field logos and things like that. And we actually reported this. This is why you never say this is happening like next week or tomorrow as a reporter. You just say soon. But I'd reported that there were going to be on-field logos with Walmart and Tyson back on July 30th, and they finally just announced that today. So this is a new rule change. So when you watch the game, you'll see logos for Tyson and Walmart on the field. Still no information on the stadium naming rights. Connor, how's it going?
What's up, Trey? Appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, Connor, we're going to have you on a lot. So not just
well, yeah, I know. It's my default thing whenever I call into these types of shows and stuff. It's just, I'm training my brain.
Right. Connor, you've broken down this team. I went over just a little bit of what your article was, but we always ask you to do the keys to victory and 5 burning questions. Let's start this week maybe with the keys to victory. Obviously, the same ones always apply. We always do 4, and Arkansas lost every one of these: penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries. They fell in every category. I mean, from injuries with Jaquindon Jackson cramping up, to losing Marquise Robinson in pregame, to losing Hudson Clark during the game. Those are all key things that happened. Special teams, obviously, a couple of missed kicks, what else happened on? Oh, a muff punt.
The muff
of course.
punt, and then
Turnovers. You lost the turnover battle in this one, and then penalties. You even lost the penalty battle also. So, they lost all 4 of those. But we always have one more, and your key to victory was don't look behind or ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, Nico Davier kind of laid it out a little bit. You don't want the Oklahoma State loss to cost you another game or multiple games later on in the season. And I think that that's the biggest thing for this team is to make sure that their gameplay on Saturday doesn't really reflect them being dwelling on the Oklahoma State performance or even looking ahead. I mean, look, your next chance for redemption is realistically against Auburn at Auburn next week, the SEC opener. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a huge game going towards, we talked about in the preseason kind of what this team's ceiling is, and their ceiling will kind of be decided by, Auburn and then Texas A&M the week after that. Those are 2 really big games to really decide if Arkansas is going to be a bowl eligible team or kind of where they can go at the end of the season. So, that's the last thing you want to do this week is come out and be focused on that and just going through the motions. I know you and Danny just talked about it. The comments from Andrew Armstrong and all the guys earlier this week about UAPB and specifics, it really didn't give you a lot of confidence that they looked into him a little bit. So, so yeah, you don't want to just kind of chalk it up as a W and just not be focused, not go through your practice at 100%. And you've got to treat this like it is a big time game or, teams at this level, it's not impossible. We saw it with Northern Illinois last week against Notre Dame. They went into South Bend and knocked them off, and that was the top 5 team in the country. So if it can happen to them, it can happen to you. So you don't want to look too far ahead at what's next, but you also don't want to dwell on the Oklahoma State loss.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the overall schedule too, Connor, let's just go ahead and, they're going to beat UAB most likely. I mean, 99.9%.
They should.
They beat UAB. And they're most likely going to beat Louisiana Tech. So that gets you to 3 wins. Okay, so the next ones that you're looking at are Auburn coming up. I mean, that's almost a must-win. Texas A&M is almost a must-win, and Mississippi State is almost a must-win. Those are the 3 that you look at and you say, okay, they've got at least minimum 50% chance at winning those games, in my opinion. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tennessee's going to be very difficult. Tennessee's got a squad. LSU is going to be very difficult, as we know. Very physical football team with a lot of talent. But they're both in Fayetteville, so it's not impossible, but going to be very difficult on those games. Texas and Fayetteville is going to be very difficult. Ole Miss and Fayetteville is going to be very difficult. Missouri on the road, to me, is equal difficult. I don't look at Missouri as the same level of talent as some of those, but I'm just going to say this, Connor. They're a well-coached team.
I can feel the vomit in your throat come out right now.
He's a good coach.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know how hard that is for you to admit right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you really can't lie. At the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. I mean, you can't argue wins and losses. And last year, Missouri was a 10-win team, so you can't.
11. Yeah.
11, with the bowl, yeah. So, I mean, you can't argue with it. And props to Dorkwitz.
All right, so you kind of covered this a little bit, but will the Hogs bounce back from week 2? That's your primary question. Getting off to a hot start. I mean, they've started strong in each of the last 2 games. Of course, they had the interception on the the 4th drive. I felt like they kind of had a throwaway play to Jordan Anthony in the end zone on that first drive, but still went up 14-0 out of the gate. And got to continue that hot start.
Yeah, no, it's I actually kind of kicking myself with the Oklahoma State the keys whenever I was like, you know what, a fast start is important, but it's really not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And obviously that was a big issue, and that's ultimately what cost them the game. So I think definitely the offense has shown us that they can be, they can be capable of creating offense out of thin air. When I look at last week's game, I mean, I was just impressed with how many in the second half, how many knockout blows it felt like Oklahoma State dealt them. And then obviously Arkansas dealt themselves a couple of knockout blows. But you think back to this team a couple of years under Pittman's entire tenure at Arkansas, I mean, how many teams you muff a punt and then it leads to an Oklahoma State touchdown. They go up 28-21, crowds into it, everything. How many past Arkansas offenses do you think would be capable of bouncing back? I mean, we've seen that play out where they, maybe they'll pick up a first down, but the drive stalls or something. It's like to be able to, bounce back and tie the game up there late. And then also on that final drive, yes, there was a ton of mistakes. I mean, it was, they tried to give away that last drive with the terrible clock management, but to their credit, they got in a field goal range and tied it up and sent it to overtime. So it's like, I feel like this team's, the offense is just capable of taking a knockout blow and creating offense out of thin air and being able to, answer back. So it makes me feel confident, a little bit more confident than in years past where it was like, if they do themselves a disservice, they were usually dead in the water offensively. It felt like, and it was always an uphill climb. Whereas it doesn't seem too far fetched where Arkansas could, in some of these close games later in the season, it's like you can really count on the offense, at least through 2 games. That's what I'm kind of starting to feel like.
I'm looking at this picture of Jaheim Singletary intercepting this pass against Oklahoma State and realizing that I forgot that they do have a turnover forced. And it was that. But
it didn't do it.
It didn't do anything. It was a heave towards the end. But I misspoke.
Yeah, so
I'm good for one error every show, I guess. It's not as bad as me opening the show on the was it the primer a week ago? I mean, I kept saying Oklahoma State Cowboys, but I introduced it as Arkansas facing Oklahoma Sooners. Whoops.
Well, it's okay. You can't be perfect.
I've noticed, like, I'm 46, and like I used to notice when I was younger, like, maybe Paul Eels or something would call somebody a player that played, 10, 15 years ago or something. And, when you get older, you start doing that a little bit. And I notice every once in a while I will do that. So it's the first sign.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll be watching on TV. I do the same thing. I'm just like, oh, what an idiot. I can't believe you said that. Then I'll listen to these back and I'll be like, I'm calling myself an idiot. I'll be like, why did he say that? Why did he start there?
Right.
All that kind of stuff.
So obviously we talked about turnovers a little bit with Danny. It's going to be very important moving forward. And, this game they should be able to, get away without forcing a lot of turnovers. But it's always very important. Your number 4 question is, can the defense pressure Jacob Zeno? And we talked about that with Danny a little bit. Not a lot of pressure from the defense so far in the first 2 games, but and obviously the focus last week was stopping Ollie Gordon. But you'd like to see them get some more pressure because it's going to be important moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the bigger concerns with this team through 2 games. I know it's not given Oklahoma State did a lot of short, passing concepts, RPOs, stuff like that. You didn't really get a good feel for like when Arkansas could really pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, where they're at with that. But to Oklahoma State's credit, when they did have to, put Bowman back there for a little bit, Arkansas wasn't able to get pressure. And like you said, that's a little bit maybe with the game plan, just having to put so much focus on Ollie Gordon, maybe that affected a little bit. But it is concerning through 2 games. You're all SEC preseason All-American. Landon Jackson hasn't really been he hasn't really been in the game almost. It's like his presence hasn't really been felt yet. So that is definitely a concern. I think that this week, especially, I know Danny touched on it, the UAB front gave up 5 sacks and 5 hurries, and they really didn't put up much of a fight against Louisiana Monroe. So if Louisiana Monroe can get to the quarterback and then Arkansas is having issues getting to the quarterback, I think that might be you might start sounding the alarms a little bit more if that happens. But I think Arkansas can have success getting to the quarterback this week.
Your power back on?
It is. It has been going off and on and off and on and off and on. It's I don't know. It's been on for over an hour.
You need to pay your bills.
I guess, or I need Ozarks Go. I need them to help me.
I think Ozarks Go can. Now I don't know. Ozarks Go does a lot of good things.
I mean, the way you talk about them, it's like, I mean, what can't they do?
I think you still need a power company. I think you still need electricity, and they're not in charge of that. But if you want to reach out to Ozarks Go, you can at 479-684-4900, ozarksgo.net/hog, and use the promo code BIDDY1, and you can get a month free if you're a first-time subscriber, which why wouldn't you be? Anybody who signs up for Ozarks Go, the only reason that you would not be a first-time subscriber, or user, or whatever you want to say, is because you've moved out of state. But they're available in parts of Oklahoma. They're available in most of Northwest Arkansas, I think north of the tunnel. Again, you can reach those guys at 479-684-4900, ozarksgo.net/hog. Appreciate the segue there, Connor.
Yeah, if you are watching, we did not plan that at all. That was just off the cuff. I mean, that's just how good we are here at HawgSports. I mean, we just fly by the seat of our pants and make magic.
How have I not heard that DirecTV stream deal with the 76ers guy? The segue. Like, I thought I had some good segues. And
yeah,
for anybody who hadn't listened, so obviously yesterday was 9/11. So this is obviously didn't happen yesterday. I think it's been going around, but this guy just goes on about how tough it is on these families, and some people didn't know. And then he's like, you know what's not tough? DirecTV stream. You know, like, dude, have a little awareness.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you want to have fun with your segue, but also when you're talking about a loaded topic like that, or
right.
I mean, that's not the time or place.
It's not a time to talk about how tough people have it from losing dead, family members, and talk about how much easier DirecTV is.
Yeah, no,
a little awareness. Yeah, last one, Connor. Got to get these mistakes on offense corrected, and obviously let's don't find a bunch of new mistakes to learn from.
Yeah, definitely. I think, to my biggest point was, I want this Arkansas team to come out and show that they're not dwelling on the loss. And I think a big part of that is not making mistakes, cleaning up the stuff last year. I don't want to see any bad snaps. You don't want to see any, fumbles on pitch, on basic, routine pitch plays. You don't want to see a true freshman run down the field and then run into your punt return and cause a muff twice. Almost caused it the first time and then caused it a second time. You don't want to have stupid mistakes like that. And honestly, that's the only way. You look at these games and how upsets happen, like the Northern Illinois upset. All through the years, it's always been, penalties, turnovers, special teams that keep these teams in these games. And that's how you allow a team like UAB to do the unthinkable and come in and hang around and make you uncomfortable for 4 quarters. So that's what you don't want to see. You want to come in, play a really good, clean football game and make easy work. And then you can start focusing on these 2 really big weeks coming up in the next 2.
All right, Connor, what's your score prediction?
I think I want to go, I'll say maybe 50-10. Let's go 50-10. Nice 2 round numbers.
All right, 50-10. You heard
They
it
hit
first.
the offense hit right there. The offense hits on their average for the year, and then UAB gets a couple scores late.
All right, Connor.
That's what I'm going with.
We'll see you in the press box Saturday.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, Trey.
Again, Connor Goodson. Follow Connor at Connor Goodson. Just at Connor Goodson, ConnorGoodson on X. Does a great job for us. And not the real value, not the only value, but because he does a lot of good stuff for us. But when basketball season comes around, that's when Connor's really going to shine for us. Has a really good, strong knowledge of basketball, covers basketball recruiting, transfer portal, all that kind of stuff. So it's important to have a guy like that. And he's going to really shine when Calipari gets this thing going. All right, so we're going to go over a few comments here, and they're all going to be from Nobu. That's me, our Army of Nobunaga. I don't know how that you say that, but we're going to see what you had to say because I see you chiming in here a lot, Army. Where are you at? I know I saw a bunch of them. We don't have a whole lot of time because we started the show late. I apologize. Who's the backup long snapper? That's Austin No. NGO. It's pronounced No. Austin No. You didn't think I'd be able to answer that one, did you, Army? Biddy doesn't know canoeing, says Army. I did not canoe at all this year. However, I did kayak. I was in a kayak and also tubed. So we were in Colorado, which we went whitewater rafting down this river last year, a year before, and it was just very tame. It was the what river is that? The Poudre River. Yeah, Poudre. Poudre, I believe it is. But anyway, it was just very tame. But this year we just did like the rafts, like just not the rafts, but the tubes, inner tubes. And it was maybe the funnest thing I've ever done as far as going down a river, just because it was a tame river for a raft, but on a tube, it was a lot. You're just bouncing around, spinning around, all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. We all just did that. I wanted to go back and do it again. So I did not canoe this year, but I did kayak and I went tubing. And I usually go canoeing, but I just didn't this year. It just didn't work out that way. What else do you have, Army? Bill Clark moved to Brazil to get a back replacement. He currently canoes around the Amazon. I don't believe you. I don't know if that's true at all. Not to forget anything else anybody posted on here, but I am entertained by Army. No, we can't read that one. No politics, Army. No politics. YouTube the Pooter. I load that over the plate for you. Poudre, I believe. All right, everybody. Marcus Daniel asks, is the walk and talk over? No, I published that right after the game, right at the Oklahoma State game. Now, I was traveling. I was anxious to get back home after the game, as you can imagine, and I did forget to upload that onto podcast. So it is available on YouTube, which is the only place we've been putting the walk and talk on YouTube until somebody wants to sponsor it. Nobody stepped up and wants to sponsor it. It's not like, I'm not going to ruin the walk and talk with a sponsor, but car dealerships out there. Like, what if I finished the walk and talk and we went and explored this new vehicle? Like I said the other day, I have a 15-year-old vehicle. I need a new one. I've been looking. So that would be a good time for a car dealership to hop on board, or anybody else wants to sponsor the walk and talk. Let me hear from you. You can email me, Trey@HawgSports.com, and we'll explore the different options there. But no, the walk and talk's still going. We just put it on YouTube because, the ad revenue is the best on YouTube. But I put it on podcast after that also, because that's good ad revenue too. But I just forgot. It slipped my mind. So I apologize for that. We won't do that this time. All right, everybody. Thanks to Danny West for hopping on with us. Connor Goodson. Follow both of those guys on X if you haven't done so already. Read their content at HawgSports. Again, HawgSports.com. It's 30% off, as you can see here below on the ticker. Just go to HawgSports. No promo code or anything needed. Just go sign up and you'll get that deal. All right, everybody. Thanks to Connor Goodson. Thanks to Danny West. Appreciate all of you. That's the show. I guess we'll see you next time when I'm doing the walk and talk from Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. First time after a game this year. All right, everybody. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.